Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, which I may or may not show every single week. And I am also a facilitator and speaker. Today, I am, of course, joined by my gorgeous, talented talent acquisition professional co-host, the one, the only, the amazing Glenn Martin.
Oh, hola.
Ah, stop doing that. And we're today joined by another talented talent acquisition professional who also has some HR in there as well, aren't we? Haven't you? You've moved around. I've lost where you're at. The one, the only, and the amazing, full-size, pint-sized Penfold. Ruth Penfold, welcome to the show.
Ruth Penfold.
Thank you, friends. Happy to be here.
Cool. Well, listen, before we kick on with the show, just a quick shout out to Recruit Philly for putting us number 6 on their favourite podcast for 2020. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Did you say you were above Chad and Cheese?
Yeah, well, I believe we're above Chad and Cheese. Yeah, directly above Chad and Cheese.
Actually,
I don't even know who those people are. Should I know?
Yes. Joel Cheeseman. No?
Oh.
You should know that name at least.
Sorry, guys.
I went on their podcast recently. It's awesome. They had like cheering noises and crickets if you don't answer fast enough and all this kind of stuff. It was an absolute hoot. I don't know when it's coming out.
It sounds really good though, but clearly it's not working enough to get them to number 6 and keep them at number 7. But hey,
I don't think we should be very smug. They've got tens of thousands of people listening to their show.
It's the day of love, Glenn. It's the day of
love.
It's the day of
love.
And I'm loving the fact that they're in 7th.
You're dreadful. Ask the question, Glenn, will you?
Ruth Penfold.
Yes.
Full size.
Actual size.
Actual size.
It will only make sense. Only makes sense to people that follow her on Instagram, by the way.
Because not that many people. Shall I explain?
Yeah, go on. It's very funny.
Explain.
So, I mean, I actually found out recently I'm 5'1.75". For a while, I thought I was 5'1.5". And I made a bit of a thing out of finding massive things and having my picture taken next to them to show how small I am, or finding tiny things and having my picture taken next to them to show how big I am. So, these posts literally say Penfold, actual size, thing, actual size, and it's that simple. I'm a bit of a goof.
I love them. I think they're great.
It's totally worth following you, Ruth, for that alone. Some of the things you get photographed next to is just classic, man. Seriously, I love it.
Yeah.
So, the wonderful world of recruitment that you are in, how did you start? Where was the beginning of your journey?
Where did it all begin? So, once upon a time, like most recruitment goofs, I fell in. I fell in. I was about 19, 20, and I was at university, and I went into a recruitment agency for a job, and they said, "Oh, you seem like you have your wits about you. Would you like to come and work with us part-time?" And I went, "Sure, why not?" So I worked for them part-time while studying. And next thing I knew, I'd been at that company sort of 7-8 years, and I was a director of the business. I stayed agency side for about 13 years in total, and then jumped off the ledge into Shazam and went in-house then. And that was about 7, almost 8 years ago now. So I have been noodling around this space for a while.
Yeah. Which is good. Because if you enjoy it. No, I was just saying, going to the love side, right? Because we're talking love today. Well, we're talking self-love, which I can't wait to get to.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a head of TA who will remain nameless or should shoot me. She's a she, so that's a clue. I saw her this week, which is also a clue. Actually in person, which is an extra clue. But she was saying like she still gets so excited when she makes a placement that she got somebody a job. And she sees many people who don't. And I'm just going, they need to leave the industry. They need to go and do whatever it is that makes them buzz if they don't get a buzz out of placing people.
Yeah,
100%.
No, I totally agree. And actually, so the last 2 roles I've had, I've been heading up the people side of things. So I'm not necessarily delivering recruitment a lot of the time myself. But I constantly connect people with opportunities and stuff just because it's so cool. And so I'm like, hey, can I, let me get you guys together. So I think once you've got it in you, you'll always be the sort of, what do they call it? Like the maven, bringing people together, telling people about cool stuff, you know?
Well, it's funny you say that, because just this morning I was telling Richard, the poor suffering ex-husband who gets to hear everything, about how Emma Fry-Vogel, who was on our first show of the year from Radical Recruit, who is all about getting ex-care, ex-offenders, etc., back to work, had been looking for someone, and she's like, IT recruitment agency. I went, you have to go and talk to Mark at Claremont Consulting. They've connected and it's all happening and interviews are going on. And I was jumping all over the place,
it's like, so good.
And it's like, all I did was introduce them. And the fact is like, oh. So I still get that excitement, even though I haven't recruited for a while. Can we just please just address that Mr. Chris Raw over here is just asking about self-love.
Hello, Chris.
Chris, it's not what Louise Triance thinks it is, okay?
Yeah, definitely not. I was like...
This is a family show.
Yeah.
About that. It is not safe for work, wear a headset. So I'm going to explain it how I think it might be, but it'll be really interesting to hear what your opinion is. Okay. I think that Obama was the classic example of a president with self-love, and what they have having now is a president with self-hate. Because I think when you have that self-love and the self-care and compassion, then you just love everyone around you. You want the best for everybody. You don't have to put people down to feel better, kind of thing. Is this where we're kind of going with this, or is that a bit too woo-woo for Friday at 3 o'clock?
It's never too woo-woo for me, babe. So, I mean, I feel, so all I can say is I can only really talk about my own experience, right? Which was of no love at all for self. Trying desperately to love stuff around me that wasn't working. Until 10 years ago, I turned 30 and went, okay, you know what? This isn't good. So I pressed reject on the life and the relationship and even the work relationships that I was in at the time. And then gradually started to build within myself a foundation of love. Now, from building and genuinely falling in love with myself. So to going from someone who couldn't even look at themselves in the mirror comfortably, to someone who is taking a picture of themselves actual size next to stuff and going, hey world, you know, that's quite some progress. And what I've seen is that the relationship with myself has had a direct correlation with the relationship I'm able to create with the world around me and the quality of those interactions, which means everything has kind of risen up around me and feels golden and joyful and wonderful because I've changed my position. But I mean, I would agree. Obama is up there for me from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah.
But I would also say this, self-love for me it's not like, you know, how these days kind of me time has become the thing that people, you know, like, oh, well, I'm just going to have a hot bath and, you know, and I'm just going to do this thing or whatever. Real self-love is the conversation that you're having with yourself when no one else is around, right? It's the way you treat yourself when something doesn't go that great, how you're able to forgive yourself. That's self-love. It's not an act or a thing. It's a daily, it's like any relationship with someone else, right? I don't know whether that resonates with you guys.
I think absolutely. So I have also come from complete self-loathing to self-love, care and compassion, which has been a journey. And I can only thank Michelle Zelly for getting through my defensiveness of my childhood stuff and clearing it. And I sort of explained a few ways. One is when I enter a room now, I don't go in knowing I'll be disliked and therefore I am unlikable. I now just go in thinking nothing. And you just naturally get on with people, and therefore work is the same. When Glenn was working with me, I was incredibly defensive and prickly because I hadn't done the work to get to that place. But going back to that self-talk, I met a girl this week, gorgeous. I mean, just the loveliest girl, but the stuff she was saying, oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm this, I'm an idiot. And I'm going, oh my gosh, your self-talk, you have to stop that.
Yeah.
But it's that awareness of your own self-talk, isn't it? You have to stop and go, why am I thinking this? Why am I saying that? Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be able, and the thing is also plot reveal, it doesn't mean that the thoughts go away. Like this hardwiring nonsense that we're trying to overcome was formed in us as children. It's actually not really going to ever leave us. But what you can create within yourself is the ability of choice so that you can go, hang on a minute, what did I just say to myself there? Stop. So literally I can, when something pops up, I literally go, oi, hang on a minute. What are you doing? I stop and have a conversation with myself. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? You know, as if I'm having beef with someone on the tube. I'm doing it with myself. Like, hey, dude, And for me, but to create the space to be able to choose my response, that's been the big thing. And that's where things like learning how to meditate and all of those sorts of lovely, complicated things that seem really straightforward, but really aren't that straightforward when we're in the middle of this world that's just full of disconnection.
Because it's a thought, it's like a river. So if you think about the river, how much effort it would take to get it off that river path and onto a different one. So we are, as you said, we will just think a certain way. But I do exactly the same thing. I'll be like washing the dishes or something random and be thinking, what on earth are you thinking about that?
Yeah.
It's something so negative. And I have to actually go, no, stop. But yeah, so even, and I must be 8-9 years in.
Yeah.
With all of this stuff. And I must admit, I can't meditate. I walk and meditate. I can't sit still. And
different horses for courses, right? Different strokes for different folks. It doesn't always, like, the key is, and it's a bit like the yoga thing, right? Yes, I do teach yoga in my spare time, and people are like, so yoga saved your life, right? No, it didn't.
No, you saved your life.
What saved my life was finding, connecting to myself. And yoga's a nice shape that I do with my body sometimes. But what actually matters is being able to connect to my breath and just be present in the moment of what I'm in. And there's different things that take people there. So some people, it's walking, it's whatever you find that takes you there. But I have to say, Glenn, for me with you, you've always had this sort of very steady thing going on within you. Would you say that you've had to go on this dark, far-ranging journey towards love?
Wow. I mean, really good question, Ruth. And I think it's probably one of those things that I don't view myself in that context, right? We all have our own inner voice. And our own inner dialogue, and I think it takes time to kind of get to a point where you're kind of calm with yourself, right? Like you said, you like yourself, you can realize your own values, and there are often kind of events that help contribute that. So Glenn Southam just popped on LinkedIn.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn. He said, "It's been so much more aware of what I think about myself since going alone 18 months ago." So to both of you, was it was it an event or something that actually acted as a kind of catalyst? I don't want to kind of get into the detail, but was it actually an event that sort of was a catalyst to take you on that journey of kind of really looking to understand yourself a bit more? And
can I be cheeky and answer mine first, because it'll go beautifully with what Glenn's saying? Oh my God, I wish I'd done this before I went out on my own, but I did it exactly the same time. So mine was, I was at a career crossroads. I went to Michelle thinking I was going to talk about my career crossroads. And she goes, let's just go back here for a second. And she started peeling the layers off the onion. Remembering mine was child abuse, so it's like a biggie, right? But I wish I had done that before. I left the world of employment and started on my own. So I just want to say that. And Lee, yes, but I'm not going to put that on the screen. Sorry. Ruth, you.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me was the moment where things started to shift, although it was 3 years after that, was my now best friend came into my world in 2007 and was someone that loved herself. And I thought she was utterly crazy, but we were soulmates, and she could see this light in me when the light was not shining. And meeting her inspired me to take little steps, like leaving a job, like connecting myself with different people, like how I treated myself, and how much care I was taking, those sorts of things. And then it was 3 years later before I actually started to see a coach. And I too thought I was having a career crisis. I was in.
Damn them, they're sneaky, aren't they?
Right. I mean, but I was in a codependent, abusive relationship for 12 years, and whilst and that stuff starts somewhere. You don't just, a bright, vibrant, young 19-year-old woman doesn't just put herself in the middle of a shit show for fun. Sorry, I said the S-bomb. But that stems to your relationship.
On this one.
We didn't talk about rules.
Can talk on this show.
No? Okay, that's fine.
No rules, Ruth.
There are no rules.
There are no rules.
Hello, Australian potty mouth. Like, Yeah, no, there are no rules. But I applaud you. I read your blog, and so mine was as a child narcissist, and I've had many narcissist codependent relationships, both personal and professional. And for you to
follow the flow,
to see it and get out of it, and actually it never ends. The next one that comes along, you have to sit, and actually I shared a post on Instagram earlier, and look at it and go, is it healthy, or are they starting to isolate you from people? And that's how they do it. And I think one of the things I found so amazing is what I can achieve now. Like that self-belief of starting to run events, starting to create community, all the work I do. It's just like, I never knew I could do all of that. And now it's like, yeah, of course I can. What are you talking about?
Well, it's like you suddenly get the hell out of your way, your own way. And then your vibe starts to attract your tribe. Like for a lot of people, it might have seemed like a really weird move for me to go and jump into the launch pad with BP, and people were like, really? And I'm like, yeah, because the bit you don't see is that BP, for whatever the organization, what people believe it to be, it's actually an organization whose foundation is love. We're not that different, right? They care deeply about who they are, why they are, and what their place is in the world. And therefore, when they met me 6 months ago, and I'm of course slightly different to your regular BP person,
in a very good way.
But this was this is now our business accelerator. So we're here to build businesses and power them in the right way. And already within the Launchpad, one of our core behaviors that we've just decided when we've just hacked our own culture to figure out what it is love. So actually, I think that the world is calling out for this stuff. And I think the more of us that can actually just start calling it love and realize that even a work relationship has to have love in it for us to be able to
even all those years ago in the toxicity, I did love that man even then. So there were people there I absolutely adored. So you do, of course you do. Do you think?
Sorry, I was just going to ask Ruth.
Glenn, he never gets a word in.
on your blog, has that been something that's kind of helped you on that journey in terms of writing about your experiences and kind of putting it out there for people to read? Is that something you would certainly encourage people to do if they were comfortable to do it? Is it? Yeah,
I think certainly. I think what my blog did for me was I realized that I have managed to create total change in my life. And that a lot of people who are where I was, certainly I would have never have thought that it was possible to live the life that I do right now then. So I kind of feel like when you've come through that, you actually do have a sense of responsibility to just shine the light for others, just like my best friend did for me, and go, hey, do you know what? Here's a little light in the dark. Maybe you can start to walk towards it in a good way, and maybe you can build something better for yourself. So I think
so agree with that.
But you know what the writing thing really did for me was it helped me to be brave and realize that I can write stuff and post it and not be afraid of what everybody thinks, or be afraid a bit of what everybody thinks, and be afraid of what everybody thinks, but still feel brave enough to do it anyway. And that's love.
And look, gorgeous Sophie Power, who I absolutely adore. I'm loving this topic, and I'm free to watch live for once. Yeah. So there you go. And actually, we've had, And Stephen Telford's here telling us to keep it authentic. Fuck yeah, good on you. Whoops, except he wrote F yeah because he wrote it on LinkedIn. And apparently there's an eyebrow rise going on. I wonder who that is. That was from Claire.
It's definitely not mine because one of mine is in hiding.
No, I'm hiding mine under my phone.
Yeah.
I've seen Stephen's comment. Thank you, Stephen.
So for those though that aren't, this is my little recommendation, because while you were talking about that, all of my therapy stuff was coming up. I used to free write as well, which is extremely, oh my God, the stuff you write. Just write, literally get up and write for 20 minutes, half an hour, don't care. And oh my God, I'd have anger, I'd have sadness, I'd have it would come out. I'm just writing, it made no sense. You couldn't read it either because I can't write. And then you can burn it if you want as well. I used to save mine up and burn them on full moon. So you just put it back out, send it back out, love and light. And but I think it's interesting when you're talking about this sort of the self-love side. What tips would you give to people? Because I think all three of us would turn up in an organization. If we couldn't bring our full selves to work, we'd just go fuck it and turn around and walk off.
Yeah.
What do you suggest? What can people do? Any tips for feeling confident enough to bring your whole self to work?
So I mean, so the first, I think the way that we start our day is really important. Now, I am not here. Yes, I do happen to wake up early, but no, I don't mind if everybody else doesn't.
WhatsApp messages at 5 a.m.
but like, people should work with the flow that works for them, right? This isn't blah, 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 blah. But whatever you do wake up, how much space do you actually allow for yourself to step into your day in the wholeness of your being, where you are actually honoring where you are that day? How much time do you take to make sure that you leave the house feeling amazing? So if you're waking up and you have no space to do anything, for me, that's not work for me. So I have a morning routine, which includes meditation. It includes journaling, but my journaling is like yours. It's just whatever's in my head. It's not meant for anyone to read it. No. It's just what it is, to clear some space. And then I move my body in some way, and then I stroll into work. I don't ever want to rush into work, because then I start on a back foot, right? So I would actually say this stuff can look really big and scary, but actually it needs to start in the tiny little loving choices that you can make for yourself to optimize. So what are the tiny little things that you can do when you audit your day to make it better and feel more abundant, and for you to feel like your best self? And I would literally just start to keep a record of that audit and experiment with different days is all I was going to say.
And so I'm really shit in doing that in pad and paper. And I found an app the other day called Day One. Oops, I forgot to turn my email off, and anyone just heard that. And I can just do little things on my phone, and it prompts me at 10 a.m. because I've now decided to start my day at 10 a.m. because I just want that morning routine, and I can. And at 9 o'clock at night, and it comes up and says, write your 5 minutes, and it prompts me what to say. And I'm actually doing it every single time. So I think it's also, that's where it's great to use the technology to help you. If you're that kind of person, if you're better with a pen and paper.
Well, and you've got to be careful. And I think, I mean, it can be either. It's what works for people, but whether, it doesn't really matter. I actually write my journal on my phone, but people's relationship with technology is also an important thing. So I've had to look at that in quite a lot of detail. You know, when am I pouring all over the internet? How present am I? At what point do I put my phone into flight mode? At what point do I turn it out of flight mode? You know, it's important that, yes, technology is amazing. And actually, technology really helped me to help faster discover who I was in the world. But all within what is actually good for you and sustainable. And, you have to be aware of when you're being taken out of yourself.
Phil Barsland, did you see? Sorry, Glenn. Sorry, my tips: write down all the rubbish in your head onto Post-its, then write on separate ones what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good idea. I just thinking, Ruth, as a head of people, and oftentimes you've had a team underneath you. How do you and if you do, how do you perhaps encourage this kind of self-love and kind of reflection in your team? What do you do as a manager to give them the space to maybe explore this for themselves?
So, I mean, I guess I just I try to adopt as much of a coaching mindset as I can with my people and give them the space to bring to me what they want to bring to me. But then I'm also not afraid to challenge them to, to grow as leaders within their own role, and to step into the space that maybe they're not taking. I think one of the things that's beautiful about being a talent person that is now a people person is that actually your team, I mean, it's also just how I roll. I do it with people who've done what I've done for their whole life too. But it's actually just saying, you own this. You get on with it. You run with it. I trust what you think. Tell me what you think. And then let's use our time together to look at, where do you want to be in this world? What lights you up? And so certainly when it comes to things like reviews, I'm like, look, I don't care if this isn't what you want to do forever, but share with me what you do want to do, so that if there's any way that I can tailor your experiences in the here and now to take you further in that direction, then let's do it.
Awesome.
Just think how much more vibrant and productive and everything they're going to be. Actually, that's taking me back to Glenn's comment as well. The other thing I have restarted doing, Glenn, which I hadn't done, is working with a coach once a month, which is really helping me. And he's just to keep me accountable. And I love it. He listens to what I'm saying and he'll repeat it back to me. And I'm like, I had no idea I'd said that. It's really fascinating as well. Really helpful.
Really good.
Because I don't have the team. Like you've got a team around you to call you out and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. It's that you I don't see myself as lord and master to the team. I see them as my peers, even more so at the Launchpad, because we're not operating in a hierarchy. So I want to learn from them right back. So it's like, okay, so what from my experience is useful to you? And then what from your experience is useful to me? And then quid pro quo, let's exchange, right? So, and my goodness, the amount that you can learn from others, particularly in a kind of mentor relationship, I've had some fantastic, like last year, I was mentoring a couple of fantastic humans from London Business School, MBA students, and it was great. It was like co-mentoring.
Hey, so
love
tips for the mentee. No, I'm not talking about you, Emma. I'm referring to a exchange with Glenn earlier. Tips for the mentee to not be a time suck, pain in the bottom, ungrateful. You know what I'm getting at. Without have you got any tips for them to make sure that it is? Because it can be.
What I always say to them is let's only do this as long as it's useful, right? And come to me with what you want, right? And most of the time, actually, what I find in those relationships is I have to say I've only mentored women so far, not deliberately. It just happens that they are the folks that approach me. But there's usually some personal dysfunction that's underneath stuff, and even if I can, actually a lot of the time they think they've come for one thing, and then I'm like, what about this?
Was this like you and I going to coaching, maybe?
Yeah. Can I give you the name of a coach I really rate? So whatever it is. But so I mean, I would just say though, people shouldn't approach a mentoring relationship just because they think they should have a mentor. That it should be because they legitimately want to work with someone on something.
Yeah, they have a reason, right? There's a catalyst, and that's a positive thing, right? If somebody realizes that actually they think a mentor could be really useful to them. But equally, to your point, Ruth, don't go to that kind of mentor-mentee meeting with just a singular fixed subject and agenda, because it does tend to explore a lot more. And like you said, sometimes it's just about unblocking some of the loops of internal conversation people are having. Sometimes they're just beating themselves up too much. They're just not realizing what's really positive about the actions they've taken just by making a choice to seek out a mentor. But equally on the flip side, mentoring and menteeship is not about trying to just continually validate what you've already done. It's to help you grow, right?
Yeah.
And I think the mentor probably grows as well. And that's when I don't think it's in balance. Because I know with Emma, I'm certainly we're growing together. It's really lovely. She's becoming such a close friend. Lee's written, I think we're going back a bit, but I just love this comment. If you're at a place of confident choice and actually know what you want, your day, week and month define themselves. In doing so, you create the space and context for the ones you love to do the same. That's so lovely. Cool. Why haven't we had Lee on this side? Why haven't you been on this side? I haven't worked that out. He's here every week making comments and somehow hasn't been on the show.
I think that's an open invitation, Lee.
Yeah. Lee. I'm sure we've invited before.
I think we have, Maybe he's a little bit nervous.
I don't know.
He's a little bit nervous, right?
I don't know. It's just strange. Can you not do that on the phone? On the thing? Sorry.
Yeah. To Ruth's point around, can you imagine
in Louise terms, going on? Yeah.
A team of people bringing their full self to work. How much of a buzz that will be.
That's it.
And how so if you think about some of the things like high performing, if you're bringing your whole self to work and you're loving your job day to day, and you're really buzzing off the people you're working with, that the lines between work and personal start to blur, because every part of your life is really buzzing, right?
They do. But the thing that creates high performing teams and the thing that creates the space for people to be themselves is the foundation of love, which creates trust and psychological safety. If you don't feel safe to be yourself, you're never going to bring it, and that you're never going to have that that you're always fear failing or being a goof or getting something wrong, rather than knowing that actually your people, they've got your back. You're actually good. You can, because sometimes those stupid ideas that you're afraid to share might be the thing that change everything, right?
Yeah. Stephen Telford's asked a lovely question here. How should companies throw love at the elephant in the room that is mental health in the workplace?
Wow. Yeah, good question, man. Really good.
Well, similar to what you just said, though.
Well, so I throw love at that by just being really open about what my own journey has been, and really transparent about the fact that every day you feel a bit different, and some days. So, for example, when I'm running training sessions on things like giving and receiving feedback, one of the biggest things is how do you feel within yourself that day, and actually are you in the right place to give or receive feedback, and what that looks like. So, I mean, I actually think, I would like to invite more leaders to be open with their own journeys. And I think more people are realizing that that's what it takes. Because there does seem to be, I'm really happy that, mental well-being is now on people's agendas and is something that people are actually talking about. But I think, real mental health is it's not a fixed state, right? It's always a balancing act. So we can't, we have to be mindful of that journey for people and give them the toolkit that it takes to self-heal. Because as an organization, it's not for us to fix people or to, or to create, here's your one thing and now everything's great. All we can do though is, or rather what we can do is inspire them with an invitation, introduce them to things that they may not have considered, and then see whether they want to follow that trail of breadcrumbs to a better way of being. And if they don't, that's okay. Plenty of people don't.
And that's exactly right. And I know certainly I'm probably crossing the line of what I should and shouldn't say, but anyway, in my own family, I have been happy to go through the journey to unravel the stuff. And others have not. Others are very, very scared of it. But very conscious of their behavior and how it impacts them. But it's I don't actually think it's as scary as all that. Like, you can get there. But I understand that some people are terrified of it. And actually also the other thing I was thinking about while you were saying that was, as much as I have done this journey, and I think what came with the self-love was the self-compassion, there are days where I just cry and I have no reason for it. And and it's just like, okay, well, something's going on. And I'm kind of inquisitive and curious about it. Like, what's going on? And then you kind of jolly your way out of it. But it's like, not to be, again, going back to that self-talk from the beginning, to go, well, stop it, Collier, why are you crying? How are you ridiculous? You've got stuff to do. And, it's like, oh, okay, that's a bit strange. Why are you crying? What's going on? Like, or even anger or whatever emotion that just seems really extreme for me. To get me back into that balance.
I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate, right? Do you think there's do you think there's perhaps so with kind of perhaps the stigma around kind of mental health and kind of well-being starting to hopefully dissipate now, and people being really open to talk about it, do you think there's a generational mindset that kind of kept that kind of conversation behind closed doors? A lot more of a kind of stoic approach, whereas now I think people feel really empowered to talk about it. They're not, as to your point, Ruth, they're not scared anymore. So to Katrina's kind of sort of anecdote there around her family, she's open to talking about these things. But generationally, whoa.
Stiff upper lip.
So,
two world wars of stiff upper lip. Don't talk about it. Squash it. Whoa.
I think we've definitely had the generational shifts, and I definitely think that we're way more progressive than we ever were before, and that the invitation is there and is open for people to really kind of start to, that's how I've created the ability to be honest within my own world. But I would say that, men and women alike, boys and girls alike, are still ruined by our societal experience, when actually we're born as these incredibly sensitive, beautiful creatures who then become slightly different to each other based on how the world reacts to us, even as babies. And then we become limited in our emotional expression by those experiences. And that has all kinds of far-ranging things. So I think, yes, as a generation, we're able to speak about stuff more, and that's great.
And we have more help available.
And we have more help, and we have more access. And
there's there's no stigma to the help.
Yeah.
Like in my formative years, there was a stigma to going and getting help.
For sure.
But that comes back.
A big difference.
Yeah. And that comes back to the point around Ruth sort of saying a sense of responsibility to help other people.
Yeah.
Kind of open to talking about it through sharing your own experience. And I think that's really, it's incredibly valuable and incredibly brave as well. Given that social media can be such a brutal and quite opinionated place, right?
Well, social media is sharing the love for us today, though. Dan O'Sullivan, hello, Dan. This is a cool talk, by the way. Loving the energy. Claire Bush, mwah, love you. Totally agree. What a great afternoon. Oh, I've lost the second half of that conversation. Stephen Telford, I've heard of LinkedIn. I have to use my phone as well. LinkedIn, I've heard of one company that sets wellness sessions as standard inter-staff diaries. If you don't feel like you need each, you can opt out. This helps to increase confidence for people that do wish to ask for help. That's cool. I'm not entirely sure whether I repeated this before, but there's this company called Hyper Island. There's a good chance I probably have. But they started every meeting every morning meeting by allowing each person in the meeting to talk about their journey to work.
Yeah.
So if you had
fucking thing, that was a sad thing. God help me.
Yeah, but Katrina, that's exactly the point. So they got everybody to share their experience coming in the morning, so that the conversation around business instantly we would have a kind of an understanding and a respect for. Man, Ruth had a really kind of shitty journey into work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a bit easy here because I appreciate that. Whereas it's maybe a quite contentious business topic. So I think those sort of things are really, really helpful, because everybody then understands the context, right? Before we get into business.
And going back to Ruth's earlier, going back to your earlier comment about how you set the space.
Yes.
So like when you were saying, like you've chosen a way to get to work that's less of a commute, which helps. But also I made the mistake of opening my phone. That was kind of putting your emotional barriers up. And I opened my phone and I got an email that made me really angry. And I literally, that ruined my entire morning. And I thought, right, from now on, I'm not going to open my emails until I start my day to give. But it's so easy just to, sorry, you were saying something and I rudely interrupted as usual.
I think I was just going to say, I did something very similar with my team at Onfido. We actually experimented quite a lot with meetings because we were kind of 15 people. And, how do we make sure that when we're all running off trying to scale a business, that we actually have an opportunity to know each other on a human level? So ours, it was a Monday meeting. So it would be your weekend in a tweet. So that people could kind of get to know one another a little bit more, which was nice. And then we could kind of sort of start to develop that dynamic between us. But we were always looking at the way that we hacked meetings to make them feel better. Things like when someone's remote, everybody sits with a computer in front of them so everyone can see each other's faces.
Yeah.
It just helps to build those dynamics of trust and care between one another.
Yeah, that's so cool. Because like the remote piece, sometimes so much can be perhaps inferred or after the call, the meeting's ended.
Yeah.
So trying to front load that with something like that sounds wicked. Sophie Power.
Yeah. Like I've turned off all of the banner notifications and all my communications.
Oh gosh,
my mornings 1,000 times better. I so love this Facebook thing. I wish LinkedIn did the same thing. You've also got a good tip, Glenn, from Rob White via Periscope, which is really cool that someone's watching on Twitter when everyone thinks Twitter's dead.
I'm loving Twitter these days. I love Twitter these days. Threads, though. Threads have brought everything back for Twitter.
They have.
They have, because suddenly there's a whole new audience, I think.
It's so much fun. I was able to share like a Disrupt HR video where he was pelting, this is in Newcastle, he was pelting them with chocolates to actually hit people. It's hilarious. And then I put a poll underneath as the next thread saying, should I allow speakers to throw food at my attendees? And everyone's going, yeah, bring it on. So funny, because it would have just been one lost. It's like, I love it. Yeah. Sorry, don't mind me. So cool. It's all about me.
No, I love it.
It's all good. My God, we're running out of time. I think we should have a long show.
Are we? Yeah, definitely. Let's just keep going.
Let's as long as Ruth. When does Ruth have to go?
As long as Ruth's voice holds out. So far, it's
I don't know. Really well. Yeah.
For somebody with bad virus, you don't sound it at all.
I know.
But, I mean, is there? I don't know if there is, but if somebody's kind of opening up to, hey, man, they listen to this show, they're like, yeah, I could do with some of that self-love. I'm probably not, appreciating myself as much as I should do at the moment. Are there any, where would you start? What would you say to them if they were sitting in front of you, Ruth? They're like, man, I just feel pretty shitty about myself, but what you're saying really resonates. What would you say to them?
So, I mean, I would, like I said before, I would actually take them into that audit of how they're living. I'm someone that's always sort of done too much. So the thing I'm working on right now is creating more opportunity for rest. Now, I made a commitment. For years, I've been going to bed early and waking up early, and that's normal. So I made that commitment to myself because I realized just how wonky I became when I just didn't have enough rest. But it kind of goes deeper than that. And, sort of over planning of time and how much space can you create? So I'm constantly iterating on what is the version of Penfold that you see before you today. So I ask people to start with that audit and ask if there's just one thing that they can do to be a little bit kinder to themselves. Because once you do one thing, and because the worst thing that happens is people, like January, try to swallow the watermelon whole and go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to live this, I'm going to live that. Everything that I am and live has happened over a series of years of constantly tweaking and changing. So, and if you try to do a million things all at once, you are going to fail. And then you'll probably end up having more negative conversations with yourself, which is not what we want. So maybe it's just getting up 15 minutes earlier, 15 minutes, and then adding one thing into your morning that really makes you feel amazing. And then from that foundation, then maybe you'll feel like you want to build on it. And then maybe you'll want to take it further. I highly recommend coaching. I highly recommend doing work that brings you back to yourself and manages to create stillness within your body. I don't know what it is that happens to us. Well, I kind of know what happened to me, but I don't, something happens in our society that means that we are a society that's built on disconnection, and we disconnect from ourselves at every opportunity, and we'll take every chance we can get to disconnect from ourselves. So the more opportunity you can give yourself to connect to yourself, the more opportunity you have to actually step into a room as yourself.
Completely agree.
So good.
Can I add a few? Good. I was completely agreeing. I want to add a few. Is that all right?
Yeah, go.
Because what you're saying is like, be still, and that scares some people. There's a tendency to be really, really busy because you don't want to face. To be curious about it. Like I was saying, when I get emotional, I'm curious about why I'm feeling that way. And then that could be, okay, I'm curious enough. I want to do something about it. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Liz Darling sent me this one in a message, but I've always been a big fan of I am statements. I used to have I am post-it notes everywhere around the house, and I'd see it and I would say something nice to myself. Yeah. Because I went from such a pace of self-hate. So to even look in the mirror and go, oh, I love that person looking back at me was such a big deal. But I had I am statements, and she just says, I am enough. And it's just so powerful. You are all enough. Yeah, absolutely. Completely. And you've got it within 100%. You. So if any of this resonates, and you're most welcome to message myself, or I assume Ruth as well, and ask
absolutely, please do.
Who gave us our help, and we can direct you there.
No, please do. Absolutely.
We're definitely getting the Ruth love here. Mark Hopkins, wow, Ruth, brilliant.
Oh, hello, Mark.
So, where are you seeing that one? I miss. Oh, is that on your one?
On LinkedIn.
Oh, your
And,
link didn't go out.
Yeah, and Phil
I
Martin
haven't
said,
refreshed it for a while.
is this every Friday? This is every Friday, but you don't get
It
Ruth
is.
Penfold every Friday. So enjoy while she's here.
But I think what we're learning from this is actually enough talking about tools. You've done very well. We're 45 minutes in. But I think this goes to show that actually we want more of these human topics and human experiences more than the, hey, tools. Because the fact of the matter is, how can you recruit somebody into your business if you're not feeling great about yourself anyway? And are you going to bring in the right people? So maybe we need to have a change of tack and who's coming up in the show. Do more of these.
Yeah, totally. And Mark Hopkins has come back to you, Ruth, with a big hello.
I love that man.
Oh, and he's on it now. More Ruth. It's got to be hashtag more Ruth.
Where are you seeing that? Where am I not seeing that?
More Ruth. Ruth Penfold.
I've broken my LinkedIn clearly.
Oh, man, that's so good.
If anyone wants to read your blog, where will they find that?
It is quite literally ruthpenfold.com.
That's very complicated.
Very complicated.
Very complicated. And your Instagram?
Is at Ruth Penfold.
You have to seriously follow at Ruth Penfold.
Yeah. Instagram is the one.
Why do people do complicated Instagram names, right? Like, why?
I don't know. I mean, you are what you are.
I get people follow me and I'm like, well, you're probably a recruiter, but I don't know. Because you haven't filled out your bio and you've written something cryptic and then I don't follow you back. And then I discover they are later. And I'm like,
Hey, Ruth,
it's easy for people to follow you.
You are on the kind of the event circuit as well. People ask you to come and talk about events. You doing anything soon that people can check you out?
I have a talk coming up. I think I'm doing a panel talk with Talentful on the maybe it's the 24th-ish.
With
something
me.
Like that.
Me.
I don't think it is this one with you.
This month?
I would remember that, yeah. Or maybe they've got loads of them going on and they've not told
25th.
us. No, are we doing that one?
And this is what we do on the Social Recruitment Show. We connect people.
Amazing.
I'm feeling the love. Maybe she's no. The last message I had from her was, yes, we're getting you a contract, and then she never has. Well, maybe I'm not on it. Anyway. It's no bother. I've got so much going on, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just turn up. So
I'm going to message her now and go, very
so that'll be on your
embarrass ourselves.
That'll be on your LinkedIn profile, Ruth, right? The event? Is it
on
your feed?
I will share it there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. That's great.
Thank you for all of that. That was freaking amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Ruth Penfold. Boom.
I know. I don't think we actually have a guest lined up for next week.
I was on the other side.
We really need to sort that out. It is backwards. It's very strange. I don't know why, but I love StreamYard. They make it so easy to do this. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
At least you moved the toilet roll from behind you. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to share that. Anyway, thank you so much. Glenn and I will be back this time next week when we locate the guest. I think Banjo's about to walk across my screen. Oh no, he's sat down. Right. Thank you. Nope, he is. Thank you, everybody. It wouldn't be a show if my dog didn't make it on. Thank you, everybody, and we shall see you at the same time next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.